What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the decidedly debonair Dr. Disaster. And it turns out that simply slapping the name of something that people used to love onto a shoddy product in order to trick them into consuming it truly has diminishing returns. Once people realize what you're up to, well, they're out.
But you ain't you. There ain't no coming back. There ain't no coming back!
That's what we got going on here with Doctor Who. The first episode of the second season for Ncuti Gatwa just dropped, and it was as awful as you can imagine. This right here is an actual line from the episode where the Doctor's new companion says, "This is the planet of the incels." They have completely jumped the shark with Doctor Who. Russell T Davies is a very bitter old man who wants to lash out at the public who don't like his show, who disagrees with his politics. This is pathetic writing, where Davies is practically breaking the fourth wall with the way he lets his modern-day fringe political views bleed out onto the screen.
You will listen to every damn word I have to say!
No, I don't think I will.
And that's just the thing. Whovians are not watching the new Doctor Who. They have completely tuned out. Ncuti Gatwa's first season broke records for this 60-year-old show with how poor the ratings were. It's so bad now that we're pretty sure at this point that Doctor Who is going to be canceled. The only thing that could save it is if this new season reinvigorates the fan base somehow and brings some new passion. But the viewership for the season opener, which is usually one of the best rated episodes of a season, the viewership for this first episode is on pace to score worse than any episode from last year.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
The overnight ratings for The Robot Revolution have dropped, and the numbers are looking absolutely terrible. They have already lost viewership from the previous year. I guess too many people looked at Ncuti Gatwa crying in just about every episode like a little girl with a skinned knee. They compared him to the old stoic doctor that we loved for literal generations, and they said, "This isn't Doctor Who. This is more like Doctor..."
Who the hell are you?
Alright, me hearties, make sure you hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and also, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. Audiobook of a dark fantasy novel I've written will be available for members first very soon, and it will be available to purchase on Amazon. Announcements will be coming soon, but the thing is, I realize it's important that we not just complain about what we don't like in storytelling and culture. Alternatives must be provided. So, I humbly ask that you consider becoming a member of the channel or purchasing the book when it drops in order to support this venture. But anyhow, let's talk about Doctor Who and the wretched overnight viewership for the show. They detail it in this article here from the Radio Times, though of course, in this rag, they do their best to try to spin the viewership so that it sounds good. But let's read it and see what we're looking at. The ratings are in for the debut episode of Doctor Who Season 15, which took viewers on an intergalactic adventure in The Robot Revolution. Marking Ncuti Gatwa's second season as the Doctor, viewers were introduced to new companion Belinda Chandra, who just wants to get home, but is forced to travel the long way around after the TARDIS is unable to land there. Season 15 returned to BBC One on Saturday, April 12th, and received an overnight rating of 2 million viewers as per TV Zone. That number, 2 million, is worse than any episode that came out last year from Doctor Who. If you look at this chart here, compiled by the website Doctor Who TV, you can see that it lists every episode that was released in 2024, and in that second column from the left, they list the overnight numbers for each of those episodes, and you can see that the 7th episode had the lowest rated overnight numbers of the year, coming in at 2.02 million viewers. And if you look at the column that is second from the right, those are the numbers for the first full week of viewership for each episode, and episode 7 ended up with 3.5 million viewers on the 7-day scale. For reference, that 7th episode from last year ended up being the second lowest viewed episode of last season, and it had the 3rd worst viewership in the history of the show. But now compare the season opener from this year to the season opener from last year, which had overnight viewership ratings of 2.6 million. They have so far lost damn near a quarter of the viewership from last year, which is terrible because last year was just abysmal already. This season opener for this year has the potential to break the all-time record for worst 7-day viewership in the show's history. It also has the chance to turn it around with an uptick in viewership, but I sure wouldn't bet on it. At this point, I would say it is an almost certainty that even if this episode doesn't displace last year's Dot and Bubble as the lowest rated episode in the history of the show ever, then there will be other episodes from this season that do. The early Rotten Tomatoes score that we're seeing for the audience doesn't look encouraging either. Naturally, the critics are fawning over the show, giving it a perfect score of 100%, but it is worth noting that only 9 reviewers have actually scored this season of the show thus far. Last year's season also had a really high score off of 180 reviews. It seems to me that these professional critics got embarrassed by the discrepancy between their takes, where they basically just kissed Disney's ass, and the audience score, which was horrible. It seems to me that the reviewers this year are playing it safe. They know that if they review it honestly, they'll have to score it low, which would get them shunned by the hive mind journalist class. However, if they phone it in and give this Disney slop a sterling score, then they'll be embarrassed again. So they choose to simply not review it, at least so far. They did the same thing with the Christmas special from last December. That one has only 19 reviews. It seems like these critics are abandoning ship, and you can't blame them. I mean, look at that audience score for season 2 already. They are sitting at 58%, which is actually a bit of a step up from the roughly 30% that the show usually sees, but there aren't that many reviews yet, and I fully expect the score to drop like a rock over the course of this next week. Basically, if Russell T Davies was counting on this year to blow everyone's minds and regain his relevancy as a writer as he saves the show single-handedly, well, if he was counting on that, then he is shit out of luck, and plain old shit out of talent. But I'm gonna leave it there. Do you think this first episode of the 2nd season ends up being the lowest rated in the show's history? Drop your mockery of modern Doctor Who into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.